All right, Mr. Ed Cunningham, aka I Need to Read. Welcome to the Flipside podcast.
Thank you very much for having me on. It's good to be on.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, man. All right, let's kick things off by. I think it's interesting to talk about like how I guess your like reading habit developed. So I think I relate to your circumstance in that. Correct me if I'm wrong, anyway. But like for me, personally, I like read a. I think the last time I read a book, other than the last few years, the last time I read a book was like 13, 14 or something, like Harry Potter or like,
Yeah.
was that like Alex Rider series, if you ever like,
Yeah.
that, like,
Yeah, they were sick.
yeah.
Because it just gives you that little dream of like, well, maybe I could be a spy.
Yeah. There was a film about it as well, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then like life happens, you start being like a teenager and then like, start partying or whatever. But yeah, you just think like, well, reading, that's something that you're like forced to do.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, it seems like you get to like mid-20s or there's like a certain point in your life where it's just like, no, like you find it again. So I'm guessing that's kind of like a similar story for you.
Yeah. I remember the last full book that I'd read before I started reading was the fifth Harry Potter. And I remember I was in France and I read that in a week and I was so impressed with myself. And I was like, right, well, I suppose I could just like quit while I'm ahead. Just like finish one book on holiday and then just stop. And then I read maybe 3/4 of the book when I was like 17 on a holiday because like a girlfriend that I had at the time was just like a keen reader. And I was like, dork, whatever. So I read a bit of a book, but I was more interested in just getting up and doing stuff or doing nothing but in the wrong way.
Yeah.
And then I think it just got to a stage where when I was like in between 23 and 24, I just hit a bit of a stumbling block and I was like, shit, my life is just not where it is meant to be. How am I going to sort that out? And there was, it was Mark Manson's Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. Am I allowed to swear? We're okay to swear?
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Okay. All right, good. Yeah, so I listened to that on audiobook and I was like, Jesus, you can get these people ideas and there's like millions of them.
Yeah.
And then I just listened to so many audiobooks. Then I was like, well, I'll actually just try reading. And I always enjoy sort of time to myself. And I kind of discovered that when you have a book in your hand, I mean, scientifically, maybe it's like 76% more likely that no one's going to interrupt you than if you have your phone in your hand.
76%?
Or just your head. Yeah. So that's my science, bit of bro science. Haven't done any studies for it, but it's just a guess. So I was like, well, I mean, if people aren't going to interrupt me with these in my hands, like, I'll take that and just got reading from there and just kind of just got obsessed with it.
Yeah, man, nice. Because I guess, was it like audiobooks first and then, or do you like mix things up still now?
It was audiobooks first. I haven't listened to a full audiobook since I listened to the Mike Tyson biography or whatever it is, because it was a massive book and I was like, I don't want to spend my time reading about Mike Tyson's life because I'm not that interested, but I was interested enough to just sort of listen. I was painting my uncle's house at the time, so I had about a week's worth of work, so 20 hours just filled half of it.
Yeah
But I'm not as busy as most other people, so I can sit and read a lot more, whereas I appreciate a lot of other people are on the move, commuting, stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I only managed to like get a reading habit like nailed in lockdown. But before that, it was like podcasts, then audiobooks, and then like I just forced myself to read. Well, I forced myself to read Jordan Peterson's 12 Rules for Life.
That was hard.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, terrible book to start on.
Yeah.
So it was just like I said, I was like 2 pages a day. And I did that, and like I got about halfway through, and I was just like, this is just not what I need. So I put it to one side, and maybe I'll come back to it. But
yeah, it was one of those books. I listened to that one, and it's his voice, and I find his voice quite irritating. But obviously, if he ever listens to this, like I don't find that irritating. I will still talk to him.
Fingers crossed he's listening.
Yeah, fingers crossed. And I've lost my train of thought there because we were talking about Jordan Peterson, but I lost interest with that book as well. And
yeah, very like religious based, or like based on religion, wasn't it, or Christianity?
Yeah,
on the
I'm just like,
Bible.
just leave that bit out. It's
Yeah,
not necessary.
yeah,
But then
no,
there'll be a lot, because I mean, there's a lot of Christians out there, so
true,
he might hit a good target audience for them.
true. I mean, there were some like gems in there, but I felt like it was like
Mm.
needle in a haystack type of thing.
Yeah, definitely. And the thing about the lobsters at the start was just it's questionable. Talking about how lobsters secrete their hormones at each other to work out who's the bigger and more dominant one, and then he says that that's what you have to do as a human. And I'm like, well, I mean, it seems a bit aggressive if I'm honest, Jordan.
Yeah, to be fair, I never thought of it like that. I think I quite liked how he's just like, because it's about like how if when they get hurt, they just like go into their shell or whatever as well.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I think it was just like just coming out of like a breakup, and I was just like, oh, that's me.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Oh, yeah, I can relate.
Yeah. I think another in terms of just like listening to things on audiobook and podcast. I know you like. Did you try listening to The Power of Now on audiobook?
Yeah, I did. Well, it was ages ago that I tried it, and it was just his voice is very slow and very like he's just a super zen German Eckhart Tolle. Like
Yeah.
you can't get much more of a boring voice, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I actually like embraced his voice. I actually quite enjoyed it by the end.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, like
We're
listening to it
just
like
accepting the pain. Learn to love it.
yeah, like I was like driving across New Zealand, like listening to it. I was just like, I'm just jumping right into the cliche, I guess.
Oh yeah. To be fair, there's probably not many better places to be driving listening to that.
Yeah, yeah. Although it was weird, just like I felt like if there was anyone around, if I had the window down, like if someone just like listened to me, like listening to fucking
Yeah, it's
Eckhart
not.
Tolle.
You have the meditation bell.
Yeah. I guess meditation is kind of something that you like quite like to talk about on the podcast.
Mm.
Is that something that
Yeah.
you've been doing for like a couple of years?
No, not at all. I started it properly. I did Sam Harris's 50-day meditation course in February last year,
Oh, okay.
and that's pretty intense. As they sort of go, and I toyed with Headspace in the past. Like Headspace has been around for ages. I'd dip in for a 3-day trial and do
Yeah.
it twice. But the Sam Harris one really kicked it off for me, and then I fell off the wagon a bit. And then I think it was probably about July last year, I ended up getting signed off work where I'd been working. My GP was like, you need to use Headspace. My girlfriend was like, you need to use Headspace. My mum was telling me I needed to use Headspace. So I just got into it, and I haven't really broke the habit since. Like there's been a few days where I've missed, but I'm on like a 106-day run streak at the moment.
Nice.
But interestingly, I don't really know if I'm still doing it because it really is beneficial or that I'm just trying to keep up my streak. I'd like to think it's beneficial, and there's some really good courses on there. But yeah, like I talk about it so much, and I talk about spirituality so much. I just think it's a line of thought not many people are willing to explore, but it's such a beneficial line of thought. And I'm sure that's like people can say that about anything that they're passionate about. So I understand that I'm sort of biased, but I just think it's so important.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, 100%. Like, I think I don't think any of my like friends outside of anyone that I've met like on this podcast, like
Mm,
none of my like friends kind of have any kind of mindfulness practice or like, or even kind of
yeah,
talk about like, unless it's someone that's like deeply religious in the first place,
yeah,
then like, yeah, I'm like, where do I have these conversations? Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
So I think like that's why I guess. I mean, was that say like similar for you and your kind of like group of mates? Or,
yeah. I think because I'm quite introverted myself, so like not that I like being on my own all the time, although I do. Um, it's like the one-to-one conversations that really sort of like get my passion going and my sort of like
yeah.
energy flowing. So like when I find someone that I can speak about like the universe and like not sound like I'm completely crazy, because like I appreciate how crazy it sounds, and I catch myself sometimes. I'm like, oh, Ed, come on, bro. But like, yeah, I've definitely struggled to find sort of friends that I've had sort of throughout school and stuff, and sort of like early 20s to chat to about stuff like that. But there's 7 billion people out in the world, and I think one thing that I'd really like to get across in a podcast is that like you can make new friends, because there's always going to be people at school that want to hold on to you as their mate. But like you can make new friends that will speak about the stuff that you're interested in now, and it's about who's going to be a good friend to you at that time, not necessarily who's been a good friend all the time.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree
That was
more.
a tangent, wasn't it? Jesus.
Yeah.
That needed to come out.
But no, it's so true, because people change, man. Like, especially like, I don't know, in your 20s, like people can change so much from the person that you were like when you were like 18 or whatever at school.
Yeah.
People go off in all sorts of like directions, and yeah, I think you can doesn't mean you could like have to like rip them out of your lives if you have to, but
No.
yeah, I think
I think it's just being accepting of that fact that not everyone's going to want to talk about what you want to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you can easily just go and meet people on a podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So I guess if let's talk about spirituality. What was your what's been your kind of like journey with that, or what are your kind of thoughts on it?
I've had I was skeptical, but the Sam Harris course is very deep, as in like within, I think something like the 19th day, you're sat there and upon his click, you have to look for your head without having a head and imagine that the head is an illusion. And in terms of like really deep in a sense of consciousness. And there's been a couple times where I've like toyed with psychedelics and have been like, there's no way that there's not something, and I'm not religious, so I'm like, well, like what's out there? And I wouldn't condone drugs in any sort of way, but I just think the psychedelics for me was just like, it just blew something up, and I now feel like that more and more in sort of my everyday life. There's a meditation pack I'm doing at the moment, and it's about focus, and you go up through each different part of the body, and then you end up focusing above your head. And I think when you get so deep into meditation, you start to have those feelings a lot more. Whereas before in my life, I wouldn't have entertained an unexplainable feeling about something else being there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's crazy. And I sound like a psychopath or a sociopath because I've got friends.
But I think there's something really powerful about being able to be, like you say, like looking upon yourself, like outside of yourself, like becoming the observer, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly that. So it's something. It's such a difficult thing to explain, especially for someone so amateur in a sense as I am. If we had Eckhart Tolle here,
I know,
if we could tolerate it, he could tell us.
But he was busy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's like, it's being that observer, you can then like look at your own thoughts as just like not a part of you as well.
Yeah, definitely. Don't have to attach to those thoughts. If you feel depressed, you're not depressed. So like, as much as there's like it's right, like some people, like we do need to label it so like they can have that feeling of like, okay, well, I'm not crazy. It's also about not identifying with your thoughts all the time.
Yeah, totally.
You are not your thoughts. I know it's I think therefore I am, but it's also like not necessarily so.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think for me, like since I've started meditation and like explored kind of like spirituality, like I think I've again, like I'm not someone that's been like religious at all, and like always kind of consider myself like an atheist, but I think I've been able to like appreciate like religions, like other people's and other people's beliefs as well.
Yeah, you definitely we definitely become a more compassionate human when you meditate and stuff like that. There's that kind of benefits, like you say, about like appreciating other people's religion. I think it's essentially someone's just had like a spiritual experience and just truly believed what they saw. And that's probably how religion was born. Because like you see in all the early stages and like drawings, like in the Bible, by all the old monks, who used to have like mushrooms around their head. Joe Rogan talks about this quite a lot. So basically, like the people that started these religions must have just been eating some stuff because like and gone on some weird spiritual trip, and then he's like, well, this is it, so let's tell people about it, and they've believed it, and then it's gone into that. But like I think religion and spirituality in any format is probably one of the most important sort of things that someone could have.
Yeah. I give like, it's like gives life meaning, sort of.
Yeah, definitely, and that's for billions of people as well. So I think to completely write off something that does that for the world is a bit like, it's a bit harsh, really.
Yeah. And it's funny because like a few years ago, I literally thought like religion, like what a load of,
Yeah,
I mean, like, again, I don't like consider, don't like assign to a religion or consider myself
yeah,
religious at all. But it's funny how like your perspective can totally change. Because
yeah, yeah, definitely.
I would just literally just be like, oh, what a load of shit.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Is like you kind of, as you get older, you appreciate like, oh, well, if it's not for me, it doesn't matter that it's for them.
Yeah. No, true. And
Living
probably a
that
lot of
live and all
people are
that.
thinking that about us meditating.
Yeah, exactly. You got to lead by example, just in the hope that we could be accepted.
We're not part of a cult, we promise.
No.
Did I hear this? He said that you wanted to read the Bible as well at some point. Have you ever got
Yes, yeah. I am interested in like reading all through it because there's so many good stories in the Bible, and the reason that I wanted to is because my friend in Australia told me a story from the Bible, and I could butcher this, but I think it was King Solomon or something like that, and God offered him money, power, riches, and he just wanted to acquire wisdom, and then with that wisdom, he acquired a load of like new territory, women and riches, like everything that he was offered in the first place, just to say that like wisdom is like above all the best thing that you can ask for. And I was like, you know what, like these stories must like they'll obviously have a meaning if you
Yeah,
can ignore the fact that like it just read it like it's a fiction book
yeah,
as opposed to those that read it as a non-fiction book. Like it's going to be quite interesting. So I love all the like Zen stories and stuff that come up in like Eckhart Tolle's books and stuff like that. I think they're really fascinating, and I just think it's nice to like tap into someone's imagination that can spread such a nice message. So that's why I'm really interested in religion in that way. But I've also got loads of other books I want to read before I get onto that.
yeah, yeah. That's a good point. I've never thought of it that if you think of it as fiction, then I guess you can appreciate it from a better perspective. I like that.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not going to read the Bible anytime soon. I mean, like,
Nah. I mean, it won't be soon. It'll be just one day. I'm hoping that I'll live for like at least another 25 years, and
hopefully,
then I'll fit it in.
I mean, I struggled with Jordan Peterson, so I don't think the Bible is quite for me yet.
Yeah, not yet.
Um, one book I wanted to ask you about was the Winnie the Pooh one.
Yeah,
The
the
Towers.
Tao of Pooh.
Yeah, I mean, like, is this? Have I got this wrong? Like, is this like a really famous book that I've missed, or like, where do
I
you?
don't I don't know. I see, like I go down rabbit holes sometimes, and I'll sit there just like clicking through the customers also bought, and just
Yeah,
go like 24 deep on that. And it came up with the Tao of Pooh, and I'd heard about how smart, like how clever, how well written Winnie the Pooh was in terms of like the ideas behind it, how that there was like a belief that all the characters in 100 Acre Wood um represented like mental health disorders. So you got like Winnie the Pooh is like OCD, no, obese, so he's got like an eating disorder, and like he's super lazy. You got Piglet's anxiety, Kanga and Roo are OCD, Tigger's ADHD, Eeyore's depression. And I was like, well, that's interesting. And I kind of had that in the back of my mind, so I picked it up, and then I found pretty much my new favorite philosophy just behind Stoicism in Taoism.
nice. Yeah, I already realised I pronounced it wrong, didn't I? Yeah.
I had been until I was speaking to someone. I was like, yeah, so the Tao of Pooh, and they're like, no, it's not that, mate. I was like, okay.
No, I mean, it's Taoism and it starts with a T. I mean, it's just so confusing.
Yeah, yeah,
But it's a
it's
like
Chinese.
I was gonna say, yeah, it's a Chinese philosophy, isn't it? Because I know nothing
Mm.
about it, and obviously, well, I say obviously, but I've read a bit about Stoicism, like kind of through
Mm.
like Ryan Holiday and
Yeah,
that sort of thing. I definitely haven't got to like meditations or like any of the
No, they're difficult. They're really
big boy
difficult.
books yet. Have you approached any of them yet? Or
I've got like 3 pages into meditations and a few on Seneca's letters, but I'm just going to treat those as like real slow, sort of like when I feel like reading a bit of that, I'll like read like a few passages or a few pages and then just put it down, go back to it later, because it doesn't follow a particular storyline. It's just, it is like meditations. It's something to be thought about, so you can't read them too quickly.
I mean, thank God for people like Ryan Holiday who just like, almost like translate it all for us.
Yeah, they can decipher it and make it more relevant.
So like obviously, well, I mean, people might not know may or may not know about Stoicism, but tell us about Taoism. Like, I know nothing about it.
So it's a philosophy of essentially like letting things be and not interfering with the universe. And I'm such a passive person. So I was like, I'm instantly attaching to this philosophy. They've got a thing called the Wu Way, which in the book they translate to the Poo Way.
Yeah, nice.
So the Wu Way is that sense of just letting things be completely and not interfering with things. And Winnie the Pooh is a perfect example of that, because when you ask him, it's like, oh, what do you think you want to do today? And he's like, I don't think about what I want to do today. I just do it. And whenever they're going on adventures, he always ends up the hero, but he never actually actively seeks out getting the task done. He just sort of like finds something. So there's a story in Winnie the Pooh's Great Adventure where Eeyore loses his tail, and whilst he's looking for a tail, he goes to ring the doorbell of someone's house and pulls off the rope, and he's like, oh well, I guess I found the tail. Like he's not actively doing the right thing, but it's just good things happen to him because he doesn't interfere with things.
So it's kind of like trusting the universe.
Trusting the universe. I didn't want to say it.
I stopped myself and I was like, going with it. It's like with this podcast, we had to rearrange, and it was just like, no, the universe is telling us, like, it has to be another.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I guess
it's always a nice excuse.
I guess that's a nice, like, it kind of goes well with Stoicism, and that's like kind of just trying not to get affected by stuff that you can't control.
Yeah, definitely. And it's such a difficult thing to do, but it's so worth learning about. And that's why, like, this is kind of where like my passion for reading has come from. Is like, to go full circle, what we were saying at the beginning. Like, I just can't believe all this stuff's out there and people aren't willing to read it and just to see if they can attach to a particular sort of maybe ideology or philosophy, because I feel they sort of come hand in hand. But it just blows my mind that people just can't be asked. They'd rather literally force themselves to finish a shitty series on Netflix than just sit and read a book.
Yeah.
So I see it so much like, oh, I'm working through it, just 3 more episodes and it will get good. I'm like, mate, that's 3 hours of your life. Come on.
Yeah, and no, it's totally true, because like I think I thought that about myself, just like, what was I doing like a few years ago? Like, I was that guy.
So harsh to myself.
And you're just like, like you see this whole new world, and you're just like, why isn't everyone like making the most of this?
Yeah, literally almost want to go like Jehovah's Witness with it and like knock on people's doors and just be like, hey, come on guys, read.
I know, yeah. Again, we're not a cult. No,
not yet.
No, we start with the podcast. That's the first.
Yeah, get people listening
about it. Then you can then eventually you'll get to a cult.
Drink the Kool-Aid and mass genocides. Not on my agenda.
No. Okay. Cool.
Just to make that clear.
Well, I've lost my trail of thought now. Mass genocide. Where were we? Oh, you got your book club, book gang.
Yes. Oh yeah, my cult.
Yeah, so that is a cult. There you go.
Yes. Yeah. So the book gang. Yeah, we've got that. I thought that was sort of, I don't know really why I started. I think in terms of like building like a platform, the best way you can do it is build a community.
Mm.
And there's a lot of people out there that want to chat about books but haven't got a place to speak to their friends about it.
Yeah,
So I
totally.
thought, why not try and like create a platform where people can just do that? And like at the moment, I'm doing the review sort of each week. But what I want to kind of turn it into is just a place for open discussion at any stage for people just to chat about their books and write their own reviews. Maybe they don't want to start like an Instagram. Maybe they just want to
Yeah.
find some like-minded people on the internet. So if I can host that for everyone, that's great. Because I mean, like the videos that I've done as my sort of reviews each week, sometimes they just haven't gone very well, and like it's one extra bit of 10 minutes. I'm like struggling to fit into my weeks. I'm like, oh my god, maybe I need to read some organization books. But I want it to essentially be a place for people to meet like minds and read the same books and maybe introduce people to books they wouldn't usually pick themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool, because I guess it just comes back to the thing again of like you can totally like meet people on the internet, even if you're not like mates with them, just have a conversation with them,
Yeah, exactly.
about the stuff that like you might not talk about with your mates in
Yeah,
real life.
definitely. Yeah.
Because yeah, it was Shoe Dog was your first book, right? The
Yeah.
Phil Knight, the founder of Nike.
I haven't finished it.
Really?
I sleep terribly, and I woke up last night about 1 in the morning, and then I read that for an hour, and I've got about 10 pages left. But I was meant to finish it last week and keep up to date with the book gang, but obviously I went on holiday. My friends asked me to stay longer. I of course obliged. I had a sick time, but I didn't finish my book gang. But I mean, I don't think anyone's going to be too upset.
And I guess that's like another commitment, like another book. You have to read it because you've
Yeah,
the book gang.
yeah. I've got about 4 books that I'm about 3/4 of the way through, so I'm taking the start of this week just to get through them, get them out of my head, because like they are good books, but I've just keep starting too many.
Yeah, I was gonna say like how many do you have on the go at once? Like
And like three's a good number for me,
yeah,
but like at the moment it is. If I think of all the books that I've started and maybe got like 3, 4 chapters in over the last month, it's probably about 7.
and are those just ones that you like are just gonna put to the side and come back to later, or
Yeah, yeah. I just get distracted because like I'm always ordering books and I've got
yeah,
far too many for like what I'm going to be able to read before I go away in September. Like there's just too much there.
yeah, that's it.
But
There's too much out there.
I've got a lot of time, so I can just sit and plow through them, and it just means more content for everyone that gives a shit about my review. So that's good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I just sent my copy of, because I actually did finish the the book.
Ah,
You
brag.
know. So yeah, I sent it to my mate, but put it in the post to my mate.
Nice.
And I think it's a nice thing to do, isn't it? Just like passing on books.
Yeah,
Do
yeah.
you want to tell us about your experiences of and like passing on books to people, maybe like girls that you've met?
I saw you kind of like setting this up from the start there. I was like, great. Yeah, so I give girls books. I give everyone books, to be fair. But it's just become a bit of a thing with my mates because on Australia Day, we were down Coogee Beach. None of my friends really wanted to drink. I decided, and I'm a massive lightweight, to have like 18 cans of like some IPA that's just far too strong. And I bought a girl that was at the beach with us a book because we'd gone on a date. We'd been chatting about Joe Rogan. We'd been talking about books, and I thought, oh my god, this is the best person ever. So I bought Stillness is the Key by Ryan Holiday because she was talking about like wanting to be calm a bit more. And like I diagnose people with what book they need when
Yeah,
I talk to them. And I gave her this book in front of everyone and it just did not like she just went all shy and all my friends like, what the hell has he just done? And since then, I still diagnose people with what book they need. And sometimes I've bought girls' books about depression. And that is where my great friend Lucy just takes the piss and just doesn't think it's going to work. And I mean, granted, it doesn't really work. if you're going to go for a narcissistic, I just want to get laid by a girl a book, that wouldn't work. But if we're talking about like feeling good for giving people a good book, like, yeah, that works. But it's not going to get you laid.
Maybe it's just the type of book. Maybe you're prescribing them wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, I think books about depression might be a bit insulting for some, but
That's it, because I was thinking when you said like stillness is the key, I was just like, okay, like, I mean, what's that saying? Like, you need to be more like, you need to be calmer. You need to be like,
yeah, just accept the stillness. And then he talks about like the greats, like I think it's like Thomas Edison or someone else. Right. So in stillness is the key. He talks about the great American president Abraham Lincoln. Took a lot of time just to be still and do nothing. And there's Bill Gates as well. He does this. He has like think weeks where he goes away for a week at a time, sits and just reads and writes for that whole week, and just is like completely off technology. Out. He can't communicate with anyone from Microsoft. And that's what he does he just takes time to be still. And I think like those great minds have like boasted this, it's obviously does something right. And I don't think a lot of people take time to just be still. They're always doing something, TikTok or Netflix or boozing.
yeah, I mean, I think if people thought that like Bill Gates of all people just took a week like every year to just think, they'd be like, no, he doesn't. He hasn't got time for that.
I think he does a couple, you know.
Yeah.
I think it was like two or three. So really like it is massively important.
Yeah, that's such a cool idea. I love the idea of doing that. It's like Warren Buffett as well. He's like one of the richest people in the world, and he just goes on like long walks and plays bridge and stuff like all day.
Yeah, drinks full fat Coke.
Yeah, true, Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
So yeah, in conclusion, that be careful what books you hand out to people, I guess.
Yeah, definitely, and just don't tell your mates about it.
Yeah, that's a good, fair point.
Do it in secret.
Yeah, because I'm reading Chimp Paradox at the minute. I was like,
yeah.
Actually, thinking about it, I got this off a friend. Oh no, well, I think I saw it and then said, "Oh yeah, I'll have that." So I didn't take offense by it. But I was thinking, like, even as I was reading it, I was like, "Do you know who'd love this?" And then I caught myself, and I was like,
"Yeah,
maybe they'll get offended."
It doesn't matter. All you can do is give it. It's their choice if they want to be offended by it or not. You've got good intentions. I'll just give it to them.
True that. In terms of like fiction, non-fiction, do you like to keep both on the go? Like, what are you into at the minute?
Yes, at the moment, most of the books I haven't finished that I'm just going to plug through this week are non-fiction books. But I do quite like fiction books. I watched that Normal People on BBC iPlayer or whatever that was at the start of lockdown. So I've just got the book for that because apparently the book's way better than series. So that's going to be my new sort of fiction read. And as I'm going to try get back into a better routine to help my sleep and stress levels and stuff like that, I'm going to start doing my like half an hour of like fiction reading just before I go to sleep without a phone or anything like that. Because that's Tim Ferriss talks about reading fiction at nighttime to sort of like help shut down your brain, because you don't necessarily need to learn what's in there, but it's just nice to sort of let your imagination sort of play out for that last half hour before bed, and it'll zap you out and you have a better night's sleep.
Yeah, totally. No, I assign to that definitely, because like I'll read like say at the minute Chimp Paradox. I'll read that in the mornings, and then like I was reading Shoe Dog in the evenings because that's kind of like pretty chilled. And then so what am I reading now? I'm reading Eddie Jones's autobiography.
Okay, is he the rugby? I'm not massive on rugby. He's the rugby guy.
England rugby coach.
I like autobiographies, you know. Since Shoe Dog, it's really opened my sort of like eyes up to. I'm reading Anthony Kiedis' book at the moment, Scar Tissue, the guy from Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Oh, okay, right, yeah, sick.
Oh, insane! Such nostalgia, because like when I was like 12, 13, probably even when I was actually like 7 to like 12, was just like pure Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And now I actually understand that he was a massive raging heroin addict, sex addict. crazy man. It just makes me appreciate the fact that he managed to ever sing even more.
That's it. There's like some people have got some crazy stories to tell.
Yeah. Yeah. My life's so boring in comparison. I need to really spice it up a bit and get addicted
Never
to
stay off
something
the
or something
heroin.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think Shoe Dog is like the first autobiography that I've read in fucking years, like since I was a teenager.
Yeah. Yeah. I've
Yeah.
done Tyson Fury's. That was quite good.
Okay. Yeah.
It's only good if you kind of care about like fighting, like martial arts, stuff like that, or like boxing. Because it does sort of talk through all his journeyman fights, which does get a bit tedious. But to hear someone who's heavyweight champion of the world speaking so like openly about like his mental health and stuff, it's just.
I was going to say,
cool.
I'd have thought that aspect of it would be interesting.
Yeah. And also his life's been mad as well. Like he's had all the addictions and he's just been crazy.
Yeah, because like he's gone from being like a gypsy. I guess he still is a gypsy, but like he's got some a mad story to tell, I guess. Yeah, I think I definitely. That's the thing. Fiction, I feel like I haven't got there yet. I feel like it's like that like rite of passage of just like you like find books just like it's like self-development and all this, and then like I'm still on that like curve. I haven't reached the like. I think autobiographies are like getting me there, but I haven't yet reached the like really getting into fiction. But I think I think
a lot of people scoff at fiction because they don't feel like they're learning.
Yeah.
And they're like they always want to be learning, and like if they're giving their time to read, like they want to learn while they're doing it. But I almost think of fiction books as just like really long, like we were talking about like Zen stories. Like there is a message in there. The author's got something they want to say, and their art is essentially just getting it out in a story, which is a sentence that if I said to myself a year ago, I would have laughed at myself.
It shows you growing.
Yeah.
What have you? Well, actually, I guess you're on a week off of the podcast at the minute. So, like, what's the thoughts behind that?
I had a lot of. I didn't have a lot. My feedback is like 95% positive, and in fact, I could probably count maybe on like one, maybe two hands at a push, like the amount of negative feedback that I've taken. But I think as humans, we naturally attach to a bit of negative feedback, or we're offended because like for me, like the podcast and the page, like that's my sort of my creation. I'm considering it as my very low paid volunteer job at the moment. So like it's something I'm quite attached to. And I feel like I've been putting out a certain message, and apparently some people haven't got it. So I had a bit of doubt last week if I was being true to myself. So I was like, right, well, I need to assess that, check that I am still living in line with my values, and just make sure that if someone does piss me off, I don't change myself to be super, super polite because I've got a podcast. I don't want to lose a listener. It's just a time to fuck off, because that's what I've done all my life. I care little for what people think in a way, and I think I actually fell into a trap of maybe starting to care what people think, and I need to get out of that. So I think I'm just going to take a week off to just get realigned with my values, finish a few books that I want to, get some episodes up to date so that I'm ahead of the game, and then just come back to it as if like that never happened, and just like address it at the start. I'm like, I had a week off. You probably don't give a shit. Now I'm back. Like, I think naturally, like people in this position think other people care more than they do.
Yeah.
And like, definitely no one's going to care that I've had a week off. And people that like the podcast will be like, yeah, fair play, mate.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. Like, I'm going into, like I said, like starting up a new business in the next few weeks, and I'm just like, fuck, like, what am I going to do? Like, I can't do the podcast, and then I'm just like, that's fine. Like, no one's gonna care.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think they will. Like, if you stop altogether, they will. But I mean, if you've got a busy few weeks, like that's life. A lot of people I've noticed on like other podcasts do series is. So like
Yeah.
they'll do a set amount of time and then they have a break from it. And I think I'm kind of like considering doing the same, maybe get to my 50th episode and then take a little break and then just do that every 50 episodes. I mean, Joe Rogan does it.
Yeah.
And I care when he has a break. I remember there was a stage where about 4 weeks where Joe Rogan didn't put a podcast out, and I was like, "What the hell? What do I do before I listen to this?"
Yeah, and I think you can, you can pre-record stuff, can't you? And then like have stuff rolling, so people don't get withdrawal symptoms.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think it was awesome that you put that out there. I think it's important to put that stuff. I mean, not that everyone has to, but I think if you feel comfortable doing it, it's good. It's awesome to like put those feelings kind of out there, whether it's on Instagram or on a podcast or whatever. Because I think like seeing all the negativity, it is just like it's just part of human nature, isn't it? Like, it's just survival instincts. Like the poisonous berry, like that's the one you need to remember, not the berries that taste really.
Yeah. My sister, wise woman, actually said to me, like, she goes, "Have you ever put a post up thinking, oh, I hope I don't get any negative feedback on this, or I hope I only get one?" She was like, "You don't measure your success on the amount of negative feedback you do. Like it's always on the positive." And I was like, Jesus, where were you 5 minutes ago? Like,
yeah.
And like sometimes you really need to like hear something as simple as that, and then your whole brain switched. You're like, okay, sweet, that's so true.
Yeah, because it's so important to like just stay true to yourself. Just do what you want to do, and like if you, because there's always going to be like people that are critical or like people that disagree or like it's just inevitable. And I think like being able to just shut out that noise is like, it's not easy, but like it can be.
No, that's the thing. It's all these good things in life. They're just difficult. No one tells you that.
Adulting.
Like, adulting, or like whatever weird limbo I am, Peter Panning. Like it's not an easy place to be. I don't think anywhere is an easy place to be, and you kind of realize that as you get older.
Yeah, I think obviously you're someone that's done a bit of traveling over the past few years. I think kind of getting away and traveling like kind of helps with that whole process of not caring what other people think, or at least taking yourself out of your like current environment. I found anyway was like really
absolutely
that side of things.
Yeah, because you don't have to like pretend. You're starting over somewhere else. You don't have to pretend to be like anything in particular. You can turn up to a hostel. There's 200 people staying in there. You turn up 100% of yourself. Maybe 150 people don't like you. Maybe 50 think you're all right. Maybe like 25 like really like you, and there's like maybe one person there that could be your best friend for life.
Yeah,
because like your values are literally just like aligned. So like the people that I've just been on holiday with, I met them traveling. I haven't got any friends that I've ever met that I'd be like, oh, do you know what? Yeah, I'll fly to another country to hang out with you boys, like, and have a sick time. It's mad.
No,
it is mad.
Like someone that I had in the podcast like a couple of weeks ago just sent me a message just with like a screenshot of her like flight tickets. Like she's American, lives in Norway, and she just sent me like a picture of her like flight tickets. She's just like, I'm going to be in Manchester like in like 5 weeks.
Ah, amazing! That's so good. It's crazy. Like you just feel like these are like truly your people when you make friends when you're away. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, totally. Yeah. I get you talked about like values, like just kind of staying to your kind of core values and stuff. Have you ever done any like exercises or like have you ever like written down your core values, or like how do you as you say, how do you manage being able to stick to them?
I think you do have to work on it, because I think when you first write out your values, you don't write out values that are really yours, and they're sort of societal values that you've sort of told that you're like, not to get too hippie, but I think when you first sort of write things out, like if I'd have written my values out like this time last year, I'd be like money, this, when truly, when I actually strip myself back, that's not important to me at all.
Yeah.
As long as I can survive, I'm sweet. But like there's work that you can do. I did a task the other day. It was like write out the like 50 most influential people in your life, and then when you write them out, and then you look at them and you think why they've influenced you or what they've influenced you on. That's actually quite a good way of working out what your values are.
That's cool.
Because you see what values you've taken from elsewhere. Because like we do start as a blank slate and we build our values off of other people. So it's interesting when you write out, like when you have to really think about 50 people that you have truly influenced you. And like that could be anyone from like a friend that you had when you were younger to an auntie and uncle or a parent to like someone's podcast you listen to, like mine. Like one of them's Joe Rogan. Like if I hadn't started listening to Joe Rogan, there's not a chance I'd have a podcast,
Yeah.
because I wouldn't have got into like, I wouldn't have been introduced to the people that he's had on the show, whose books I've read and ideas I've had sparked off that. And I think like if you what values that for me, mine's curiosity. Like Joe Rogan's is curiosity, and they sort of align in that way. It's such an interesting sort of, not method, but like practice, I think.
Yeah. That's cool. I am going to do that. I think, yeah, like listen, just shows how like powerful like listening to podcasts can be. Like,
Yeah.
like for example, like my kind of the podcast that got me into podcasts was Modern Wisdom by Chris Williamson.
Yeah.
Really, just because I like lived in Newcastle, like you couldn't not be a student in Newcastle without knowing who he was because he was a promoter.
Yeah.
And then suddenly he had a podcast.
Yeah.
And then I was suddenly listening to someone that was like talking about like that's why I tried out meditation. That's why I like got into like anyone that he was like getting on and listening to, talking to.
You're just introduced to ideas that you wouldn't necessarily usually be introduced to, because everyone that you probably hang around with has the exact same values as you, because likely they've been raised in a similar family. They've likely gone to the same school. They likely have the same religious views. They likely have all this. Like, it's not very diverse in terms of like contribution to your thought. So when you listen to like a podcast with someone that you probably wouldn't usually listen to, it does introduce you to those different ideas, and your brain will just go, sweet, I'm happy with that.
Yeah, like I remember just like I had like a week of skiing in the Alps, and I just like stuck my headphones in and just listened to like a week's worth of podcasts, and like
Nice.
just like changed my like perspective on like life.
It's funny you do that. I couldn't think of anything worse than listening to a podcast when I'm skiing, because I just listen to Sail by AWOL Nation and just forget the world and just hope that I don't crash into anything.
Yeah, well, you've got a lot of time on like chairlifts.
Chairlifts, yeah.
I think that was more when I was like zoning in.
Yeah, nice.
Sick. I mean, have you got any like reading tips? Any like hacks for people that are like wanting to get into reading, or is it just a case of if you want to do it, you're going to do it?
Well, it's 50-50, I think, because firstly, you could pick up the completely wrong book and be put off reading forever.
Yeah.
I think picking your book is something that's really important. A book like Shoe Dog, I think, could get a non-reader into being a reader.
Yeah.
Because it's relevant. People want to know about Nike. Like, everyone knows about Nike. Like, you're interested in that story for somewhat, or there'll be a story that you're interested in. Like, I started off with this at I've not given up, because at that time in my life, I needed to like a kick up the arse. Whereas like whatever you need in your life at that time, whatever you're lacking in, like for me, last couple of weeks, probably mindset. So I'm about to read Paul Mort's book this week, because I feel like I need a reset there. So always pick the book based on what you need that week or that day that you're looking for that book. Don't just base it on like what everyone else has said is good, because it might not hit with you at that time. I always think taking a book when you go to meet friends is a good idea, because my friends are always late, so I can always get 5-10 minutes reading in, like waiting for a mate. and you always look well smart when you're there holding a book.
Yeah, totally. When you meet someone, I saw it. I watched it happen yesterday, where someone was just like waiting, like with a book, and I was just like, "God, you look so intelligent." And then I saw the person come.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, nailed it.
Yeah, like, oh, sorry, just reading. It's like Anchorman. It's like, I have many leather-bound books.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's me.
That's it. Like first date, you just got to take a book, and you're just like, "This is me."
Yeah. I've heard this before, is like if you go home with someone like after night out, judge them not by anything else than the books that they've got on their bedside table. And if they've got no books, get out.
Yeah. Like at the minute, like, because I'm, like I say, just moved into a new flat, and I was like,
Mm,
I haven't bought a TV yet, and I'm like, is it really fucking sad of me to not buy a TV? And
no.
like people were just like, yeah, like what would you do if you like if someone came back to yours or whatever? Like, what would you like point them in the direction of? I was just like, well, I would just the bookcase. I would,
Yeah.
I would
Oh,
talk through my
or
selection.
or me.
Yeah.
Like, like surely it would be me. They're not coming to watch TV. I got my TV out of the room at the start of lockdown because I was like, if I really want to watch something, I'll just like chuck my laptop on, and it's never a great experience watching something in your laptop, so it kind of puts you off.
Yeah, true.
So I just got a TV out of the room and was done with that. But yeah, definitely a nice full bookcase. Like when I went to like check out apartments in Australia in Bondi, the person who I actually ended up living with, I went to her bookshelf straight away and did exactly that. I judged by the books, and there was a lot of Malcolm Gladwell on there. I was like, you know what, that's one of my favorite authors, so I can live here.
Nice. That's it. Judge someone on their books.
Mm. And that was something that was completely like, I hadn't planned on saying, oh, I'm going to judge them by their bookcase. But as soon as I see it, I kind of like, I'm gravitating towards it because like, I think you can tell a lot about a person by sort of what they read.
Yeah. No, I agree. Oh, Malcolm Gladwell. There you go. I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna
Yeah.
read it.
Oh yeah, nice. That's a good book, that.
Yeah, yeah. You said it was good, so it's on my never-ending list.
Yeah.
What have you got on your list? Is it just always never ending, or have you got something that you like really wanting to read at the minute?
It is never ending. There's a comedian, he's an Irish comedian, lives in America, and I asked him to come on the podcast not so long ago, and he asked me to read a novel called Skippy Dies.
Right.
And I think it's like a comedy novel. So once I've got through these books that are in my way at the moment, not in my way, but just like I've got a few pages left on quite a few books. Once I've got them out of the way, I'm going to start that and just get into a nice novel, I think, because I haven't sat down with one of them for a while.
Sick.
So it's Skippy Dies. Couldn't tell you the author. But what else have I been looking at? I just don't really want the Anthony Kiedis book to end, the Scar Tissue.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's just crazy. Like every page, I'm kind of hoping for a point where it's just a bit boring, and I'm maybe like 200 pages in at the moment. I haven't yet got to one of those pages. It really is. It's just like every page, I'm just like, Jesus Christ, how can this get any more interesting? And it does.
Is it just
He lost his virginity to his dad's girlfriend.
Say again?
He lost his virginity to his dad's girlfriend at like 13.
What?
And he had Cher used to babysit him, and he once spied on her getting changed when he was like 12. Tried to jump from a hotel into a swimming pool, missed the pool, broke his spine.
Jesus.
It's just a crazy life. And I just think, wow, I'm tame.
Okay, I need to add that to my list. I need to check it out.
Yeah, it's definitely a good book.
Yeah. One thing we talked about quite a bit on the podcast is like femininity, masculinity, and I spoke to James Waltham the other week, who I know you've spoken to.
Yeah, I used to work with James.
Yeah, no, small.
Yeah.
So it was something that we talked about in that, he kind of said that a lot of the stuff that he talks about, like in the kind of mental health space, inner work, and all that sort of thing, like can be seen as quite like feminine for like guys to talk about.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe some people might even see, personal development or reading as a feminine trait. I don't know. But
Yeah, I think it depends, because you've got like the leads who
yeah,
probably aren't into it. So yeah, I do think like my following 86% women.
yeah,
So it says it all. Like I don't think I'm too unblokey for blokes not to relate to me, but I just think girls are more interested in it, and especially a lot of my books are like spirituality and stuff like that. I had someone message me actually and was like, "Have you read like books on like financial literacy and stuff like that?" I was like, "Yeah, I have," and I found them like interesting, but not too interesting. I
yeah,
think boys are more interested in those kind of books, and girls naturally gravitate towards a more spiritual one. Whereas I think it would be good just to have everyone just meet in the middle and have like a nice, well-rounded like list of things that they read. So blokes can be a little bit more feminine or feel more comfortable being a bit more feminine, because
yeah.
I've always been pretty feminine. I've got quite a bit of feminine energy. I'm doing all right. Like,
I
fine.
like it. Do you think a lot of lads like shy away from I don't know, say if it's like more spiritual book or something? Do you think a lot of lads like shy away from it because they're like just don't, because they like to be one of the lads or whatever, or just
Yeah, I think so.
guys just aren't interested?
I think that they do subconsciously have like that thought that you've just said there, but it's more of a case that they just won't entertain the thought, I think.
Yeah,
But that'll change, and that is changing. I'm getting a lot more sort of people that I would never have expected to take my recommendation on some certain books, and they've read it and have loved it.
yeah,
And it was actually the guy that told me about sort of doing more like posts on like financial literacy and stuff. He read A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle
yeah,
and was like, all my life I've been reading about business and financial literacy, but the books I've like needed to read was this. I've been holding myself back all this time. And like, this is a guy in his 30s, like he's lived, he's quite a successful businessman as well. So, and for him to say something like that, I'm like, yeah, do you know what? Like, I wish the world could see that. Like, I put it on my story, but it'll only be like a couple thousand people will see it. I want like, you need more people to. Well, it's just convincing people, isn't it? I'm just trying to sell an idea of just reading. It's just I'm not gaining from it financially.
yeah. And I guess it comes back to just like being fucking true to yourself, doesn't it? And like
Mm,
not caring what other people are going to think, and being
yeah,
open
yeah,
to,
definitely.
again in a similar situation to what I was, because I was in Australia
Mm,
in February now. So
yeah.
yeah, what was your situation in coming back, and what's your plans going forward for traveling?
So I went to Bali in March to meet some friends, and
Was that like from Australia
everything's
kind of thing?
from, yeah. So flew from Australia. Um, Flew was like Australia's or Malaysia's answer to EasyJet. This holiday started terribly. They charged me like $300 to take my bag on the flight, because
Oh, fuck.
there's just sneaky little loopholes.
Yeah,
So that was annoying. Anyway, get to Bali, have a great couple of days. Coronavirus is apparently a thing. Australia shut their borders. My flat's got all my stuff in it, and I'm in Bali. Like, great. What the hell am I going to do? Um, so came back to England and then started the podcast. I'd had the idea. I'd been sort of surrounded by people that week, like Darren Cartel. Like, I could see how happy he was with his podcast, like
yeah,
spending some time with him in Bali, and like he was just like, yeah, I just love it. And I was like, you know what? Like, I've wanted to kind of do this for a while. I'm just going to start it. So I've been quite fortunate in the sense that the whole coronavirus pandemic, like, it's pushed me in quite a good direction, I think.
yeah, yeah. I think
But
a
all
lot of
bar the bleached hair, we're doing all right.
people, yeah, I think a lot of people have like seen the positives in the situation,
Yeah.
and all that. So, are you planning on going back out to Oz or Bali or?
So I fly to Bali on the 13th of September,
Obviously.
because their borders open on the 11th. So 2 days after, get straight in there. Um, I'm just gonna live out there. Hopefully, well, I say hopefully, like I've got an idea for a book that I want to get done properly. I want some courses that I need to do.
So, writing
Um,
your own, you mean?
yeah. Um, and I just feel at home in Canggu because I love the jiu-jitsu, surfing. There's lots of stuff that I can get a lot better at out there.
Yeah.
And I've still got some money left from when I was traveling before. So I was like quite fortunate that my travels got cut short, and all I've just had to do is a little hiatus from them, and then I can get back to them. And whatever happens with Australia happens with Australia. My visa, as it stands right now, is pretty much gone.
Yeah.
But if I can get another one, I will.
Because what's the visa situation in Bali? Is that more relaxed or?
You have to leave every month, allegedly, to like reset your tourist visa.
Yeah. So it's one of them.
Yeah.
Oh well, you can. It's a nice hiatus because you can go back with a podcast.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, exactly. And that'll be probably the best place I can be in terms of network.
Yeah.
For something like that.
100%. Because I mean, you've had like Greg McKeown account. I don't know.
Yeah. Greg McKeown. I don't know either.
Yeah, the author of Essentialism.
Yeah.
And you've had like a few people from the like PT world, and what's the direction of the podcast going forward, or have you got anyone coming up? Or just whoever. I mean, that's a
yeah. Well, I've actually ended up like cancelling a lot of guests because there were some that I'd booked in that I didn't really know why I'd booked them in. I didn't want to have a conversation with them that it didn't excite me. And the conversation that I actually had with Greg McKeown, I looked at that, and then I looked at a conversation that I had with my friend. And I think I preferred the conversation that I just had with one of my mates.
Right, yeah.
And I was like, as interesting as it is to have a conversation with someone like Greg McKeown, like I was really hammering emails out every single day, trying to get all these guests on, literally clutching at straws. And I'd booked a podcast with a guy called Brendan Kane. He wrote a book called 1 Million Followers, and he's got 1 million followers on Instagram. And I didn't think he'd share the podcast, so it's not necessarily like I'd have any of his audience come over. But also, I don't care about having 1 million followers.
Yeah,
like it. And I think a book about 1 million followers is not in line with what my values are. My values are like, I put it out there. If it grows, it grows. If people don't like it, they don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't want to like use tactics to grow it in a sense, like beyond hashtags. And I think that's just me as a person. It's like, I feel like I'd get so obsessed with it.
Yeah.
I need to just, in my sort of Taoism and my Winnie the Pooh way, is just sort of let it grow. If it grows, if it doesn't, that's okay. Because I think at the start, I was posting like 2-3 times a day. It's just too much. Get obsessed with it. It's weird, and it's literally Instagram.
Yeah. No, totally.
So I've cancelled a few guests, but I've got a couple other guys that run sort of book Instagrams who I actually really want to speak to. One guy's created an app for readers, and the other guy just does like pretty banging reviews. So I'm just going to have him on and chat about books. But yeah, guest wise, I'm just being more sort of selective now. And I've had people ask me to come on, which I thought was like obscure.
You mean they've asked to come on to your
podcast? They've asked to come on to my podcast, and I was like,
it doesn't work.
yeah, it doesn't, like it's not that kind of thing, because like I would never ask anyone else. I feel like if you need to ask, like it's probably not what they want.
Yeah.
But that's just my probably anxious, almost millennial, Gen Z, whatever I am, just coming out.
No, I think you're right. Man. All right, cool. Where can people find you? What have you got going on?
Oh, well, by the time this is released, I'll be back. It's at a need to read with the number 2 and not the word, which I feel like I say all the time.
Yeah,
whenever I speak to someone, when I meet them, they're like, oh, what is it? I'm like, yeah, it's just a need to read, number 2, not the word.
Well,
it's literally become such a habit. But yeah, at a need to read, it's the podcast. There's a book review, I have guests on. If you like reading, there's probably an 80% chance that you like the Instagram and the podcast. Not everyone's going to like it, as we found out this week. But yeah, I send an email out twice a week as well. So they can find me and join my email list there. And then if they don't want to listen to a podcast, give me 3 minutes on an email and they probably want to listen to a podcast.
Nice. Sick, man. All right, this has been
Yeah.
awesome. So thanks a lot,
Mate, thank you so much for having me on. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Sweet. Cheers, bro.
Yeah.